Okay, yeah. Thanks, Ombir. Thanks everyone for joining in. So today we are in the third session of our Mulesoft Integration Engine series. So we are going to learn about what flow, subflow, and private flow are, what is the significance of these all, and then how to use them effectively in order to build a stable application into Mulesoft. And then we will talk about what choice router is, what is the scattergather router, and then we will also talk about how to connect with this database. So here we are using MySQL, and then we will send some data from Salesforce to database. Then we will talk about what for each is, that is typically equivalent to for loop in other any scripting language like uh, JavaScript, Java, or Apex. And then we will talk about what Mulesoft Anypoint platform is, which is a web-based platform, and how to get an account for that, so that we can work on that from the next session. So let's quickly start with the flow, private flow, and subflow. So whatever we developed till this session, we created a project and then we were dragging and dropping some elements into the canvas. That was a flow. And then we have two more things. One is subflow and private flow. So subflow is a normal flow where it can have a message source like listener, HTTP listener that we used. It can have scheduler, it can have some file listener, or it can have some database listener or FTP file listener. A subflow can also have its own error mechanism that we are going to learn into next sessions. And then private flow is a flow without a message resource. That means we can only reference this private flow with the help from some other flow with the help of flow reference. That is a new component that we will be introducing today, and it cannot have its own error handling mechanism. So whatever the flow, that means the parent flow, or we can say the calling flow, have the error mechanism, and that will all be applied to the private flow. So let's quickly see how it actually works. So if you see here, I have got one parent flow that is a subflows flow, and then we have got one hello flow that is a child flow which is being referenced from this parent flow, and then there is one private flow. So if you see the difference between the first one and the third one, in the first one we are not able to put a message resource, a message that is a listener or some other listener, scheduler, file listener, or anything. And then but in the third flow we have got listener, which we can also call directly either from postman or when once we have deployed using the endpoint url that we get, or we can also call from this parent flow, which is a calling flow with the help of a flow reference. So let's quickly see how we can do that. So for this we already have a complete flow setup, but what we'll do is we'll quickly create here. So why basically we need subflow and flow before we, okay, what about now, which screen are
Yeah,
you able
yeah, we can go ahead. Yeah.
to, okay, cool. So whenever we are developing a program like in Java or JavaScript or Apex or any scripting language, what we used to do is we usually used to put some common things into some handler or utility classes, and then we used to refer from the different classes, a handler, helper, or different functionalities where we wanted to use. So that is the same reason here. We can have some reusable flows which we can invoke from the different flow, and that flow can be either in the same component in the same XML file, that is a configuration file, or we can also create our own different XML file, configuration file inside src main or main mule folder. So as you can see that I have got 5 different files with the different name. So if you want to create more here, so what we can do is we can quickly right click on the folder that is src main and mule, and then select new. After that you just need to select mule configuration file, and then just give it a name. Suppose that we are just saying that organization application dot xml. So the extension of this file will always be .xml. If you create some JSON or any other file, and that will give you that will not give you any error, but while you are preparing a jar file and trying to deploy your application into the cloud hub, then you will get the error. So make sure that you are using .xml file here. So once you will create a new file, you will see that there is a new complete canvas for you, where you will get all 3 elements. One is message flow, where you can drag and drop your element. Then you will see global element. A global element is a location where you can create multiple connections, like connection with Salesforce, connection with database, connection with some other RESTful web services or SOAP services. All the connections, or we can say all the third-party systems that you are connecting with your application, you will see here. And then you have XML file, like whatever you will add the element into your canvas, you will see the XML of those here will automatically get created. So and every like every XML file must have at least message processor. Message processor means either you are putting some logger elements, you are putting some payload, transform message, anything. But if you have a blank blank file, that will give you an error whenever you are trying to start your application. So make sure that if you created a file, just put something at least, even you can just quickly drag and drop a logger element here. So you will see that the message processor is must for uh, any Mule file. Source can be empty because you might want to refer this flow from your parent flow. So what we will do is, here basically we will be creating two flows, two child flows, one for getting the Salesforce account records, and then one for getting the Salesforce contact records. So what we will do is we'll quickly try to find out Salesforce query here, then drag and drop here. So whatever the configuration you have created into some other files, some other XML files, all those configurations will be available here for you. So if you click on this drop down, you will see that I have got two configurations uh, with the different name. So I have two Salesforce account. I can select any one of them, and then I can put the query. The query we already selected here. So we can say that select ID name from lead. So we'll, for the practice, like for this session, we are going to use Salesforce config, which is my another Salesforce environment, and I'm just going to put a limit of 10 records. Whatever the SQL query that you can put inside your developer console, you can put that SQL query here inside your Mulesoft console, which is same. And then you have some parameters that you can have. The parameters are like, if you wanted to put some filters, you can add your parameter name and value, and then you can refer here into your SQL. So that's what, just quickly change the name here because we are just getting lead here. We will say get leads, and we will create one more here, and we'll just quickly drag and drop one more query parameter here. We'll say get contacts, and again we will select some configuration here. Same, we are getting 10 contacts and 10 leads. So now we have got two subflows. These are the subflow. If you wanted to refer, how we can refer those. Suppose that we have got one, say, main parent flow inside here, inside the same configuration file as well. That is, just dragging and dropping the listener element here, and say here we are going to give it a path as object here. So this will be our path which will be hitting from our postman just to get the information. I'll say as objects. Now we have configured our listener. What if you want to put some logger here, like if you want to send some value from the listener, or you wanted to do something, we are also going to do here. And then now how you can refer these, any of these components on any of these flows inside your parent flow. We can say here object flow here, and how we can do. So for that, you just need to type here flow reference. There is a component under favorite section where you can find, just quickly drag and drop here flow reference. Then it will ask which flow you wanted to refer, which subflow or private flow that you have created, either with the help of some different XML file or inside same. So if you click here in the flow next to flow name, you will see all the flows that you have created for that particular project. As we are inside this project, we will see all the flow that we have created. And so suppose that we wanted to get the contacts, we can quickly get a contact name here, and then that's it. And again, if you wanted to print this or we want to display to the user, you can quickly drag and drop transform message, because we just wanted to transform into JSON form what we are getting, and then what we want trying to transform, that is payload. And we already discussed about what payload is and how does it work. So this is very simple that we can refer a flow here. And even suppose that for example, let's quickly put one database query here as well. Suppose that you already built a application where you are using into the same application. Now if you wanted to use that, or if you wanted to put that into a different flow, how you can do that. So suppose that here we are just querying 10 account records. Now you have done into the same thing how you wanted to, or how you can drag and drop. So you just need to right click on the your element, click on extract to, and you will see there are two options, either a flow or a subflow. So if you click on flow here, it will ask you the name here. So let's say that we are going to say get accounts. Click on OK. It will create a new flow for you. Here now you can see there is a flow again where you are querying account, and it will automatically put the flow reference for you. So you don't need to worry about. Just select that, right click and extract to flow or private flow you want to. Suppose that you wanted to do this for a private flow. So what we can do is we can quickly right click here and then extract to. I'm going to select subflow, and you can say here get accounts. So again, it will do the same thing, but what the difference is that we will not be getting now message resource. That means we cannot put some listener in the sales source section here. So now we have got all those, like first calling the contacts or lead. We are getting the contacts, and then we are getting accounts here, and then you can put some transform message just to display to the user like what information you are getting from the system. So this is how you can quickly do that. Let's quickly run this application and then see what output we are getting here. So in the flow, whenever you are trying to call, uh, suppose that you are trying to call using flow reference, another flow here. For example, if it take for this account one, you are calling a flow that is this account. So whatever the value you have until now, like before this flow reference, everything will be available to your get accounts. Get accounts. So that is a flow here. And if you have any variables before that, or any payload that you are getting from your request with the help of post or get, you will get everything, headers, query parameter, everything into your subflow. But there is one more thing that is important. We will discuss once we will test this. So let's wait. If you are, let's see if you are able to see or initialize this application and test. And in the meanwhile, I will open one configuration file for you that I just developed. So here, if you see that same thing we did here, we have got two flow. One is child flow, then we have another that is hello flow. So what we are doing is we are referring child flow from this flow reference, and then we are using a request element, which is basically used to call a RESTful web service that we can use HTTP request. What we are doing is we are calling a hello flow here. Hello flow has nothing. It has a path of hello. That's what we are calling here in the HTTP request with the help of some local same configuration that we have got localhost 8081 and then hello. So in this case, whatever the value you have before this element, this request element, nothing will be available here in your subflow. So if you have variable, you try to access that variable into your subflow, you will get a null value. If you are sending some payload uh, into your request as a post value, you will see some null value here if you are trying to access that payload. And what's the reason behind that is because this is your new request and this is a complete new request. So this there is some question in the Mulesoft developer one certificate which asks there are 3 or 4 questions which are related to this topic only. So that's why I'm just wanted to make sure that you get what kind of questions are there. So let's see if now we have got here.
Amit,
Okay.
could you come again? It's not clear till now. What you mean to say? It's why we are getting a null value. Sorry to bother you.
Okay, no problem. So basically, you have a complete new request here. Okay, first, and then in the between itself, before terminating, or we can say that before doing a complete operation, you are initializing a new request. So this flow, the subflow which you are trying to access with the new flow, that is a HTTP request, this flow will have its own variables, its own payload, its own query parameters. You will not be able to access from the parent flow. That what the parent flow have, the variables as query parameters, UI parameters. That's what if you see into the configuration of this HTTP request itself, you have various options. You wanted to set some query parameter, you need to pass from here. Suppose that you have got some query parameter in the parent flow, then you need to get that query parameter and then set here if you wanted to access that query parameter into your child flow as well. And the same goes with the URI parameters, and whatever the payload you are getting from the parent flow, that will act as a body of your child flow because you are sending an HTTP request. So in the get method, it might not require to send a body, but other requests that methods are available here. For example, we have got post, patch, or put. These all are which requires a body. So that is the main reason, because you are initializing a complete new request. In that case, you need to you will not be able to get whatever your parent flow have inside the child flow. Is that clear?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So we have got some error into our, that is get accounts.
You say something invalid global element name, so might be the connection issues, because in the global element we generally put the connection, so the URL.
Yes, but sometimes as the configuration of my system is low, sometimes it happens. So I just need to stop and restart the application. Even if it will this time we'll get the error, we'll try to see the global elements as well. Okay, guys, so we are back in the business. Thank you for bearing with us. So now we have got this. Our application is running. You can see that we have loaded various libraries that are included into this application itself. So now if we find out what the path for our flow is, that we just develop it as object. If you go to this application that is Postman and try to hit here, so basically we set up our HTTP request listener to the 8081 port, and that was this object was our endpoint here. So you can see that we have got the leads here. So even basically the lead flow is a child flow where we are calling Salesforce and getting queried the lead records, and then we are referencing into the Mule flow. You can have various possibilities while you are working with this Mule flow, and one we already discussed. That one was if you are calling a flow with the help of a request, HTTP request, then it will be like you whatever the parameters, like including variables, URI parameters, payload will not be accessible to the child flow. So that was about how you can organize your child flows, private flow or subflow. And then next that we have is choice router. So basically choice router is equivalent to if and else. Suppose that you are getting some parameters into your request and saying that if the, for example, we are sending an object name, we are saying that if object is account, then we are sending we are getting account information and then returning account records. If the object name is leads, then we are querying the lead records and then returning to the end user. And if there is no like that is else default condition, if there is no object, then we are querying both the objects and returning the aggregate output of that request. So basically this example will be concatenation of two things, one choice router and Scattergather router. So first thing we will learn about choice router. This is how actually choice router looks like. You just need to put a choice element, and then you can have various if conditions, like saying that if your element is your object or query parameter is equivalent to account, get or use a flow reference just to call that account record. Then if your object name is lead, use the flow reference, call that lead record. If there is nothing, then just call us another subflow, which is getting you the record of both lead and contact records. So that's how you can do with the help of choice router. So let's quickly do here. So now we are here again in the same thing. We will be using choice router as well. So let me quickly collapse this again, and then we will open this. So now what we will be doing is, as an example, we will be sending a query parameter into our request. Query parameter will be nothing. It will be uh, having a name of our S object. As object, it might be contact, account, or lead. And then based on whatever we are getting, we will be sending a request to Salesforce to get the data for that object. So what we will be doing is here, as our request is already configured, we just need to get a variable. Why we are using a variable here? Just to store what query parameter we are getting from the request. So I'll say here This is an as object, the name, display name, and the name of our variable as well. And then how to access what value will be here. So we will be saying that we have a message dot attributes, and then under that we have got query params, and then name. Suppose that we are sending obj name here. We will say this will be having a value of a string. That's what we are typecasting into the string. And then if there is nothing, suppose that user is not sending anything into the query parameter, what as a default we will say lead. So if we click on this data view explorer, we will see here what we have put here till now. We are saying just get the query parameter from the request. If there is nothing, just give the name as a lead. So if user is not sending, we will be returning the lead information. So this is about set variable, and then we can have a logger element. Then again, what we need to do is we are talking about choice router. So under this favorite section, you will see the choice router. Even if you wanted to find out, you can just quickly type here choice, and you will see. You just need to drag and drop. So as soon as you will drag and drop your choice router, you will see there is a condition and default element. If you have more, you can have more. So in the when, you can see here we need to provide some expression which actually evaluates either true or false. So what we will see here, we have a variable. We will say was dot the name of our variable, that is this object. I think it is as object equal to suppose that we are saying lead. If it is a lead, we are going to use flow reference that is going to return lead record. Even in this flow reference, we are referring a flow which is calling a lead, which is making a query on lead object. And then we have default. If you wanted to add more here, what we can do here is we can quickly find. Suppose that we wanted to call a flow reference. What we need to do is just drag and drop elements, and you can see that the line is here. So you just need to put here. As soon as you will drop, you will see another condition here, that is when expression, where you need to say was dot spj equal to we are making on query on contact here, and then we are good. In the flow reference, we need to say which flow we are calling. So let's quickly select it is a contacts, the flow that we just created. So now we have got choice router. In the default, what you wanted to call, we said that default condition will be having a lead object. So we will be pulling this flow reference and call the lead object as well, the leads flow. So now our choice router is ready. If we try to click here and then
Amit, sorry to bother you again. So can't we use directly a query instead of flow reference here
you can
in the
use so even suppose that you have an scenario where sometimes you directly wanted to access this flow, that will give you the contact related information. Sometimes you have some choice router where you need to again get the contact information. So instead of having the same thing twice in a different places, you like not you or any developer will be referring to use that flow somehow. That's what the concept of flows and subflows we are discussing. So even if you want, you can quickly drag and drop your Salesforce query here instead of flow reference, and then put that. That will also give you the result. And then instead of like flow reference, you can have as many as message processor you wanted to add. Like you wanted to add some loggers here just to see what output you are getting. You can do that as well. So there is nothing hard rule that you just need to put only one component, or you just need to put only flow reference. So now our application is ready. Ready. We just quickly go to Postman here, and then we again try to hit this. This time we will be sending a parameter called that was what we said here. We just did quickly refer this. So we said it was object name. So we'll be sending object name as contact here, and then we will say send it, and it should return the contact here. Now you can see this time we are getting the type of contact. If I change it to lead, will return us the lead information. If we say leads, it will send give us some error or default, because it is not having anything. Default we are getting the lead information. So that's how your choice router works. But what we can say that drawbacks with the choice router is that you must need to have, or you must need to know how many variations you do have, like how many system you wanted to call based on your request or based on your choice. Suppose that you have 10 requests, you need to have 10 if else condition here. In future the business come up with a new requirement and says that I want to add two or three more conditions, I want to delete a few conditions, then again you need to come into the choice and then delete those. So that is one thing that you must need to have here. And the next that we have in our plate is that is Scattergather Router. So we saw that in our choice element, we can only send request to a single element or to the single resource at a time. But with the help of Scattergather Router, what we can do is we can make calls in a parallel. Suppose that we wanted to make a call to the 10 different system at once, then choice router will fail. We have to go with this Scattergather Router. How it works? So basically, you can see here it can send a message to the multiple processor at the same time, and the request will be processing parallelly. That means the time will also be saved with this method. If you have 10 multiple requests and the maximum timeout, or we can say that the maximum time of your request is taking 1 minute, so the complete time for your Scattergather router will be 1 minute. It will not exceed more than 1 minute. Instead of having this mechanism like sending the request to one source and then once you get the information then send to another. So this time what it will do, suppose that it is taking 10 seconds, 5 seconds and 1 second, total time will be 16 seconds. In this case it will be only 10 seconds because the maximum time is which is 10 seconds for all among all those request processors. So that's what your Scattergather router is being used. Now if you take an example of flight bookings, suppose that you are trying to find out a flight from New Delhi to New York or America. So what it does, it basically shows you the flights from the from the various airways. Like you can have Ukraine Internationals, you can have British Airways, Air India, or you can have American Airlines. So what it does in the background, it sends the request parallelly and then get you the result into the user browser in the same place from all the systems. Like it doesn't let you wait, like these are the Ukraine services, now let's wait to get the result from the British Airways and just for those. So this is a very simple example. Again you can take another example of hotel bookings or your trip management, that also does the same thing. In the background it sends the request in parallel and then uh, doing the flatten just to get the information into the single source, and then do some parsing to display the information into the user browser. So this is a very simple example. Now let's quickly implement this. So instead of choice router, we have got Scattergather. So what we can do is, suppose that if we are sending a request, that means we have a request, we are sending an object name here, and we are saying that if an object name match, then send the information to that object only. If there is nothing, that means if object name doesn't match, I want to information of all those objects, the both objects, that is lead or contact. So what we can have is like here is a choice router where that is correct. We wanted to get the information based on a single resource, whatever the condition we do have. Now in case of default condition, it is saying that I need information of both. If there is no lead, there is no contact, I want both lead and contacts. How we can do that is with the help of Scattergather Router. So what we will do here, we will just quickly drag and drop Scattergather here into a new flow. We are creating a new flow here. Now we have got Scattergather. Now what we need to do is we just need to do the flow reference of these two flows. Why we are referring these two flow? Because there is nothing new. We already have existing flows that we wanted to access, but at the same time we wanted to make a request for both here. So what we will do is we will have a flow reference here, one and then two. So now you can see here, instead of having the multiple request, we are only having a single request that will be giving us a record for all those. So let's quickly try to select here leads, then select contacts. Our flow is ready here. We can say all as object. Okay, now if you wanted to put some transform message here, so what we will do is let's quickly put transform message at the end. No, not here. We don't want to put here. We wanted to put the transform message outside of our scatter gather. So just delete this and then put here. Oops. Yep, now it's clear. And then say here we have got JSON and payload we wanted to display here. Okay, now we are done. We just need to use a flow reference here again to call this scattergather flow. That is, now we have got all as object. And let's quickly save it just to get the updated version there.
Amit, and how can we provide the source to the Scattergather or the second flow as a default one?
This one.
Yes, because it is when it will fire when the flow come into the default one. That is neither the lead nor the contact. Then only this Scattergather will be in a place.
Yeah, this is I just dragged and dropped. Like if you want to do it in a different I
No, no,
like
no.
I got
I'm
your
saying
concern. What we can do is we can quickly wrap in into the subflow that is a private flow and that will work. That also works. It is just an example to show you how scatter gather actually works. And you are correct. Like scatter gather mostly will not be having this any sources, but there might be some scenarios where you wanted to get all like we discussed the example of that flight booking, right? In that case, we must need to call all those resources to get the flights from various airlines, right? So we must have to have a scattergather resource, message resource, where we need to call that endpoint and get the information. But our example is completely different, where we have choice router and scattergather router working together.
so. What I was asking in the choice router, we have a default one. So in the default, in place of the default one, we put the scatter gather. So now in scatter gather, if we want to flow the data into scatter gather, how we can provide a value into scatter gather? How we can map the value of default one? So the source value, how the source value is coming to scatter gather? That's what I was.
No value is coming to the scattergather, nothing, because scattergather doesn't takes any input parameter. Like if are you talking about to sending the query parameter or what you're talking?
How we can fire these cutter gather in a condition where the flow come onto the flow lands to the default one.
That's what we had this flow reference, which is actually calling this all flows, and all flow have nothing. It has a scattergather, right?
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
Can you
that's what.
again, can you show me again how you has passed this one to the all as subject? This one.
Okay, so I did nothing here is so
You just drop the flow
just so that we have
reference.
nothing. We just dropped flow reference here,
Mhm.
and then in the flow name you will see all the flows that you have. Either it is a subflow, it is a flow in the same XML configuration file or in a different file. You just need to select what flow you wanted to call here. That's it. You just need to select all of as object and then just save your application. You're good. So we already saved this application and our application is ready for test. So we'll quickly go ahead to the postman, and this time you can see here we are sending leads here. That means if we try to send this information, we should be getting lead and contact both. So we are good here. You can see we are seeing the payload. This is for leads, and then we are saying a payload saying that one. Why we are getting 0 and 1? 0 is for leads, and then 1 we have for contact. But if you see the output is not familiar with us, we are not familiar with this output because we wanted to get this payload. And then again we have the same value for number 1, and that is payload. In real time we might have 10 or 20 requests that must be returning, and we will be like we need to iterate with this and then get the payload. That will be a big task for us, and that will also be a time consuming and directly impacting our performance of our application. So how we can return in a way, or we can say that the response how we can make so that our machine can read very easily, and then they can do the parsing in a very easy way. So for that, what we have is inside the transform message, what we need to do is there is a method called flatten. It takes the array of array. What we need to do is we need to say payload dot, and then we have the payload of payload. I think this is it. We can quickly try it. So flatten, what it does basically, it receives the array of like array of objects, where you can see here in our postman we have got 0 and then we have got 1. So what we need to do is we just need to get we need to club the information into a single response. That's what we are trying to do. So we will see here once our application is ready. Yep. And then again we will try to send it. Oops, we are getting null values. That means this flow should be dot dot. Not tried this from long time. So why we are referring here payload first and then again payload, because whatever the output we will be getting, like it have one payload for this flow reference, and then we have got another payload for another flow reference, and if you have some other systems which you are requesting, then we will get multiple payloads. That's why we are referencing payload from payload here. So now you can see we have got leads, and then at the bottom we will see that we have got contacts as well, and all those are in a single output that are array of one objects. So that's how your scatter gather works, and then how you can quickly club your response into the single. Like this time we have got two different objects, that is lead and contact. But as an example that we discussed, we will be getting the same information like flight number, what is departure date, and what is arrival date, and then we have source and target and all those things. So this is how Scattergather works. And then next thing that we have is how we can connect with database. So in our previous session, we got a request like they wanted to connect with the database, and then they wanted to send some data from Salesforce to database. How we can do that? So basically, what we are going to use here is we are going to use a MySQL that we have configured into our system, and then this is how actually you can insert your data into uh, SQL whenever you're trying to insert. So what we are doing, you just need to put a command that is insert into, then you have database name and dot table name, what are your various columns, and then how you are referring the values dynamically. So for this, we already have a flow setup. I'll just quickly show you how to connect with database, and then we will run the flow to see the data is there in database or not. So let's quickly go to Mulesoft Anypoint platform. We have got this. So there is a flow that I already developed. What we are doing in this flow is basically we are querying a custom object from Salesforce. Custom object is sales record. This record is having more than 10,000 rows, like 12,000 records something inside Salesforce environment, and which holds the information about what orders a customer has made, when that order made, what was the priority, and multiple information that holds what was the unit cost, how was the revenue, and everything. And then what we are doing is we are inserting into a table. The table is there inside a database, that is OMS, Order Management System, and the table name is sales. And then we are doing the same thing that we just discussed here. So before we discuss more about this, let's quickly see how we can create a database connection. So again, for database, that what you need to do here is just quickly search for database. Here you will see that you have got database, and then if you wanted to do insert, let's say that you wanted to do database insert, we can have insert here, and then you will see that there is a red sign. That means we need to see what error we have. We need to do a configuration here. So I already have, I'm not going to do this. I'll just quickly show how you can do that. For the connection name, you have got various, like you have Derby database, generic connection, MySQL server, MySQL connection, and Oracle. So we are going to select MySQL. So every database must need a driver, that is Jdbc driver. So for that, as you can see here, we are using 8.0.15. Let's quickly remove this, because this is how once remove it. Okay, this is how you will see for the first time when you try to create a connection. You just need to click on configure and then say add main dependency. Okay, copy this text, that is artifact ID, paste in search and then hit enter. So it will give you a list of all the database, and then you can select here that is 8.0.20. If you are using 8.15 instead of 20. So what it will do, it will actually download the jar file, put into your project directory, and then it will say that your application is ready. So now you can see we have got this Jdbc driver. You just need to say the localhost. So the database is inside my localhost itself. Usually the port for MySQL is 3306, and we have got a user that is root, and then we have got password which is amit at the rate 123. And what database is, we have got a database called OMS, and then you just need to click on test connection. You will not get this error. This error is because of the tooling APIs is not available. Tooling instance is not available for me. If I have to show you what it will do, I need to restart the application, so I will not do that. But yeah, once you click on this test connection, you will see test connection successful, and then again you are good to go here. Select this database that we already have, then put your query, because while we are doing insert operation or delete or anything, we need to put query here, that is SQL query. So for inserting, what we need to do is we need to say insert into which table we wanted to insert, that is OMS dot sales, and then you need to provide your columns here, like you have got ID, your name, or the columns that you are available, and you need to say these are the columns, and then what values you need to provide here. Then you need to provide value, either you wanted to provide some static values or you have some dynamic values that we are going to see in this demo. So let's quickly discuss. We already discussed that we are querying a custom object, that is sales record. Then we are preparing some information here. So this is nothing, this is the output of our this is the input for our Salesforce, that is insert operation. So if you see here, we are saying ID, we have got country, item type, order date. All these are the columns inside my database table sales into the database. And then I'm using this payload as an input for this bulk insert. Why we are using bulk insert? Because we wanted to insert the data into the bulk in our Salesforce database. I'm sorry, into inside our MySQL database. So all these are the columns that we have, and these are the values that I need to put on those columns. What I'm doing is I'm just iterating with a map function that we discussed earlier, and then putting here everything. I'm just preparing values here. I'm saying that for ID, I want the ID of what ID we are getting from Salesforce, then country, what item type is, what is order date, and everything. And in the insert bulk insert, what we are doing is we are doing a query here that is saying that insert into database dot table name. These are the column names from my table into my table, and this is how we dynamically refer the values. So ID is a variable name that we just saw into the transform message, that is we just need to use colon just to refer the dynamic, and then comma, we have got colon country. So what for each and every column into the database table, we are referring here dynamically so that we can get the data dynamic. And what are
So
the
you mean to say, so sorry. You mean to say under the value that you are passing a dynamic, these value are referring from the payloads, the variable that been assigned. Is
yes,
it?
yes, that's correct. If you have like, for
It is from
example,
the MySQL side.
no, these values are this particular part, the values, and then the column dynamic values that we are referencing, these are from the payload. Okay,
Mhm.
and the order will be same, whatever the order we have decided, we have given into the table section, saying that these are the columns and these are the fields inside my table, right? So if you see here the ID, then we are getting ID, country, we are getting the country, so that we can get the correct value. So we can map the value in the correct column from Salesforce to the database. And
Correct. Correct.
these are the things. You might wanted to change the name, you can change here. Suppose that for unit sold, you say that you sold For unit price, you say that u price, whatever the variable that you have given into your transfer message, same value you need to put there into the database, into the dynamic mapping section. Suppose that we are talking about here, we said that u sold here, we can use that here instead of unit sold. So this is these are the values from the payload. There is no relation between the column name or the payload that we are preparing here. And even you can see here in the parameter, that's why we are putting the payload. Whatever the payload we have made the changes here, that payload will be here as an input parameter. And then we are just doing a insert operation. So we have got this. If we have this the SFDC MySQL, so if you go to Postman, you can see I have already SFDC to MySQL, that is inserting in. Okay, I think this is the one. No, let me see here. I've got orders. This is the order is the endpoint. That means this is the one that we have got orders. So what we will do is before we go ahead, I will show you the table structure and the number of records that are there, and then we will move forward and we will quickly test this. So I have this table. So this is my database where we are going to insert. So in the database, you can see that I have got three database schema. That is, one is employees, OMS, and system. Inside database OMS, that I do have a table called sales where I'm inserting data. I'm going to select 10,000 rows and I have got 200 records. You see here, I've got 200 records. So once we will execute the flow, and then we will see that how many records we are getting from Salesforce into the tables. So if we hit this, click on send, it will take time because we have got bulk records, procs. Okay, duplicate entry. Why we are getting duplicate entry? Because there is a primary key. The primary key we have made for the ID. So if we try to insert duplicate value, we will get the error. That is like similar like Salesforce external ID. So if we try to see again, we have got anyone knows how to delete the data? I don't have idea.
Yes, write the command for the deleting this query.
Okay, what is that? Please tell me.
Or select the means truncate and the table name. This delete all the data.
Is truncate?
Truncate and table name, whatever your table name.
Okay,
Good.
cool. I think we should be good to go. Yeah, we don't have any data here. Now we will execute this. Thanks, man. Thanks for the help. Okay, we are getting some. I'm not sure what characters are these, but we'll quickly see here what output we have got inside our table. So we have got 200 records again. Okay, now why we are getting 200 records? Because we modified the flow, but we did not save that values. So that's why we are getting the 200 records. But it is working as expected. We are getting the values from our Salesforce into the database. So this is how you can quickly work with Salesforce and database. And the next thing that we have is Foreach. So I think we are already out of time, but I'll quickly try to cover this. Foreach is basically equivalent to the for loop, the typical for loop that we use in any language, programming language. That might be a Java or it might be some other language. And then unlike the other language, it also takes the collection of records where we wanted to iterate. That's what if you see on the right side, we have got collection. Collection is nothing, the records where we wanted to iterate. And then the variable name, that variable name is whatever we usually do. Suppose we used to write for contact, like suppose that we are doing a for loop on contact list, then we have to write contact con. So let's quickly say here Visual Studio Code just to show you how it is equivalent to. So suppose that we are iterating in a list of string instead of contact, so that it will make sense for everyone. So we need to say here str string length, string list, whatever we have. So that's what the collection, that is this list. Variable name is string, and it will automatically typecast what kind of value it is, so we no need to worry about that. And then it takes some counter variables. Counter variables are nothing, just for the increment, like how they are going to increment, like what is the byte size. So usually we take as a one. And then we have got root message. Root message is nothing, whatever the value you have, that might be a payload for the single record, because this will be having multiple records, might be 100, 200, 10,000, and then the single value that will be stored and in this message, that is root message. So the example is like that. Suppose that we are getting some data from either Salesforce system or database. We wanted to write the information. So the same example that we took here. Suppose that we are getting some payment information from the database. We wanted to write the file, a separate file for each customer, so that it will be easy for us to find out whenever we wanted to get the information for a particular customer. So that's what we are going to take an example here. So, yep, let's quickly see here what we have. I have this that is new XML file that is already configured for me. So I will quickly walk you through. What we are doing is basically we are again, as the name suggests, we are getting the data from a table in the database called, that is, payments table. Okay, I think I will make that. Okay. So we are making a query on the table called payment that is on under the same database that we just discussed. And then what we are doing is, it is just a variable that is doing nothing, and there is no use of this variable. And then logger, we are just trying to see how many variables, whatever the variable we have. I can quickly remove this because there is no use. And then what we are doing is transforming the output into the JSON, because even the output we will be getting in list hash map. So that's what we are converting from list hash map to, in the linked hash map, to the JSON. So this is very quick. We just need to provide what is the output type, and then what is the payload. And then how we did it, we have an element called Foreach. You just need to drag and drop here. So that's what you got, a Foreach here. Again, it will ask what is the collection. Like you can see here, it is asking the collection. The collection means either your payload or the variable where you have multiple records. You just need to provide that. Suppose that I'm going to say here, for an example, I'm just going to say I have a payload here, and I'm going to leave this as it is, as a default configuration. And then under this for each, what you can do is, suppose that you wanted to write some file, so you are going to say write under a file, not FTP or SFTP. I'll just quickly drag and drop inside the for each. So this file, this write statement is going to execute as much as time this for is going to execute. So suppose that we have got 10 records, this for loop is going to execute 10 times, and we are going to write 10 files in a system, in a path, in a local path where we are going to provide. So again, for this also we need to define a configuration. So just click on this plus sign, and then see here what is working directory. You just select that and click on this. So you can see here I have got this under downloads. I have a folder called output. I'm going to select that, open, and then I will click on OK. So now I have got this configuration, that is file config 2. And then what is the path? That means where I wanted to write. Suppose that I wanted to create a folder here saying name of payments. And then what I'm going to say here, I'm going to write some files based on what we are going to write a file here is. So if we see into this payments, let's quickly see what column we have in this payment. So this is our database, and under that we have got this payments table. We will select, and then we will go to table types. So you can see we have got customer number that will be unique for the customers. Even there might be multiple payments, like 2, 3, or 10 or 100 payments for a customer. So we wanted to write a file with the name of a customer or with the customer number. So that's what we are doing here. So I'm just going to say, like, payload have whatever the payload is getting for this. So now every iteration will have a unique payload. I'm going to say that payload dot customer number as a string, because this might be this is an string. And then what is a output, what is the type? So let's say that we are saying that JSON file. That's what we did here. Even if you wanted to write some CSV file, you can put an extension of CSV, XML, or you have some data view, you can put here. And this plus plus is nothing. It is just concatenating two string together. So that's what we are doing here. The same thing we are doing into this for each element. What we did is we have got transform message where we are just adding a vendor element into each payload. So even if we wanted to delete this, we can delete. So we're just saying that vendor is an Amazon for all the orders, all the payments, and then we are writing the payments into the file, into local system, the path and the folder. The structure is everything is same that we just discussed here. That's what we are saying that dot forward slash payments. There is no folder. If you see into that file, you will see no folder is there with the name of payments. It is going to create a new folder for me, and then I'm saying that what will be the name of the file. It is a payload.customer number, and then the extension is JSON. So before we go ahead execute this, so let's see what we have. We have got payments here, and let's quickly see what we have inside that folder. So this is a folder, and you see that we don't have anything for that folder. Now if we go to Postman, write the payments here. I already have this localhost for me, the complete URL. As soon as try to click on send, I should be able to see some output here, and then okay, we are getting output here. Now you can see we're getting the status code as 200 as well. And then if we get back to our folder, we will see that we have now got a complete new folder, and under that folder I have got few files. These are JSON files. If I right click on any, let's say that for 124, if we click here open with text edit, you can see that this many payments has been made by that customer, that is 1 to 4. And even if you notice that we are getting the vendor for all the customers as well. So this was also one question where they put some flow and say that like they put like this and they ask what will be the output for that. So this is how you can use quickly for each, but for each is a single thread. That means it will iterate only one by one in a serial way. You cannot process the records in a parallel way, but if you wanted to process the record in a parallel way, then you have to opt for the batch processing that we will discuss in the next session. And in the last, we have Mulesoft Anypoint platform. So it is a web-based platform where we can do anything, everything that we just did here. There are some extra functionalities as well that we are going to discuss. So let's quickly go and see how we can sign up for this. So as we are here, we just need to go to anypoint.mulesoft.com. Go there. As I'm already logged in or not logged in, it will give me. You can see here. Even if you see like this, you will see an option for sign up. You can quickly sign up for that. That account. This is a 30 days trial, but you can sign up as much as you want. Suppose that your 30 days trial got expired, you can sign up for a new account with the same email. And then I already have this. Once you will sign in after creating an account, the first screen that you will see will be like this. Access management, where you can create users, groups, or business, or you can see the logs, everything. API manager is a place where you can manage your API. You can provide some policies. You can set some traffics, alert, everything related to API, like how many number of requests you are getting from a particular API from a particular location. Runtime manager is a place where you actually monitor your applications, the application that usually you deploy from your studio to the cloud hub. And then you have visualizer, a monitor, or secrets manager. So these are the 7 things that we can get. And you can also create some APIs with the help of raml, and then deploy those APIs to Mule exchange, and then manage those APIs. So this is basic thing about Mulesoft Anypoint Studio, and we will also see more thing about in the coming lectures as well. And with this, these are the few resources where you can go and learn. The first thing is that official Mulesoft doc. It has a step-by-step, very clear explanation for each and every topic. And if you don't have any account on training MuleSoft, please go ahead and create. This gives you free trainings for Mule 4, Mule 3, in the various topics. Again, you have got some free instructor-led training due to this COVID-19. You can go and sign up as per your time zone and make sure that you are getting most out of them. Then there is a website called dzone for Mulesoft. It also have a very good explanation for each and every topic. And then these are the two YouTube channels where you can go and find more resources about Mulesoft. So with this, Sombi, over to you.
Thank you, Amit, for the amazing session. For understanding the Mulesoft flow, subflows, private flows, we have choice routers, scatter and gather, and also we had an example to connect with MySQL and data loading, and how to sign up for Mulesoft Anypoint platform. So we have a few questions already in the call, but I do not see any questions on the chat. So if anyone is having question, please post on chat, or you can directly unmute and ask Amit. Um, so is there any question? Please go ahead.
Hello, Amit.
Hey,
Hello.
hi Ranjit.
Yeah, there is one option for the concurrency. What is there?
In which for each or where?
Yes, in Foreach there is an option for the max concurrency.
Max? I didn't get
Concur
that.
there is a one option in your like a previous slide when you drag the component for the for each. When you select, there is option for the max concurrency. There is, so what it is? We
No, I think we don't have that option. Let me quickly share one screen and you can show me where it is. Okay.
okay.
So because there is some batch size where you can set the batch size like how many records it is going to process at once, but we don't have that mass concurrency. So I am in my MuleSoft studio screen. You can see, and here it is what we have got for each. Is there anything that
You click over there. There is that time I'm not seeing when you click in for each. There is option for the concurrency.
I think
So
that this might be for create. Is there anything here you are looking for?
okay, okay, leave it. I'll
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, if there is any more questions, please go ahead. We have over 2 more minutes and then we close. We are already over time today. I do not see any more questions, Amit, so we can close for the day, I guess.
What I would say, Samir, if I'm requesting if you can extend one more session where the doubts and the suppose somebody is doing the hands-on and they drag into an issue, if that can also be. I don't know whether I need to ask this one or not. I just come. I just thought to.
Yeah, and that's a good thought, and I hope we can manage that after the 5 sessions are over, right?
Thank
Yeah,
you, thank you, thank you so
yeah,
much.
sure. We'll arrange that. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we have recorded the session, and hopefully, you will get the email